I would love to intro you, and you just heard a very eloquent intro. I will actually start off with that and say, I'd love to hear, your history, how you ended up at FanDuel, and just take it off.
Yeah, I just started at FanDuel back in July, so actually fairly new, brand new to the sports betting space. Came from Hulu, led all media and subscriber acquisition for Hulu for the last 3 years. Background mainly in performance marketing. So yeah, fresh to the space, so excited to be part of it.
Thank you, Brian. Hi everyone, my name is Mario D'Agostino, and I work with Brian at FanDuel as VP of Customer Marketing and Marketing Technology. Been with FanDuel and Flutter, which is the company that actually owns FanDuel from the UK, for about a decade, for time in the sports gaming work. Had the opportunity to work on a bunch of different roles in marketing growth, marketing technology, and customer retention. So yeah, having a lot of fun. We launched sports betting in 2018. New Jersey was our first state. Now we are the #1 app in the US, which is exciting. Our biggest event is coming up in a couple of days. So I'm excited. And yeah, as you can hear from my accent, I'm Italian born and raised. Moved thanks to FanDuel in 2017 to California, so supporting the Rams.
Guess we don't have to ask that question. Speaking of, kind of gearing up for this weekend, but also, the amount of competition, right? You launched in 2018, you guys were on the forefront, leader. You're now seeing a lot of the companies getting in, even the main casinos. How are you looking at competition? How are you looking at staying ahead?
The competition's fierce. You see a ton of money flooding into the market. Caesars has come in with a big splash over the last couple of months. It's ultra competitive out there. I think one of the biggest advantages that FanDuel has is what we call the flywheel. We've had a fantasy sports business for a long time now. So we have that base. We're able to cross-sell over. We also have a casino business. We have a horse racing business with TVG that many people are aware of. So there's a way to keep people into the ecosystem and actually get more out of our customers and provide more services to them than many of our competitors. So we look at that as our main competitive advantage. I think one of the biggest things in the market now that's going to be a challenge is how do you break through. People are putting big headline offers out there, tons of different commercials. You see spots with Jamie Foxx and now you have Holly Berry and Caesar spots, and there's just the creatives being elevated, the amount of media and markets being elevated. All the offers are crazy aggressive. There's a lot of customer bonusing going on. It is just a complete and utter land grab. So being diligent about maximizing our flywheel and trying to find ways to creatively break through is going to be critical for us to maintain our number one market share.
I will also add that, of course, being part of Flutter brings a lot of talents and experience from all over the world. So we have people from Australia, from the UK, and Ireland. So it's impressive that the amount of talents that we have in the marketing team. We are also leveraging some centralized function like the risk and trading team. So we have a team working for 24 hours on our odds, which is probably one of the biggest competitive advantage that we have versus DraftKings or BetMGM. So I think we're lucky that we're part of a very big group. And as you probably know, Flutter also owns PokerStars and Skybet, Foxbet, ID Power, Betfair. So we have pretty big shoulders, and we're using our talents and our resourcing to win the competition here.
As you guys are looking at attracting the customers in your flywheel, is there a certain dollar amount that you guys look at a lifetime value of getting the consumer over? Because you guys are very aggressive in some of your promotions and some of the gambling, consumers can actually drive lines, right? Which I think is unique to you guys.
Completely. If you think about it, it's a very immature business as well. We have the state of New Jersey is the oldest state, and it's only 3 years old. So to try and predict out a 3-year or 5-year lifetime value is actually really difficult when most of your customers aren't even 3 years old. So, but it's something we obviously care a lot about and think a lot about. We do have lifetime value models. We're optimizing our marketing investments to get an ROI based on what that's telling us what the predicted value is going to be over time. But again, that's only as reliable as the data that we have, and there's not a ton of historical. So certainly a challenge and a big risk to understanding what true lifetime value is. Like I said earlier about the flywheel, our biggest thing is getting people into other products, keeping engagement high, and obviously lifetime value should increase over time.
I think also going back to the flywheel effect, we have a pretty large database of existing customers. So we have more than 50 million customers. So customers we have already acquired through the FanDuel database via TVG, daily fantasy sports and casino. So it's really important to figure out how we can convert those customers into sports betting customers and really increase their lifetime value because they're working on a matching product. So I think that's probably the main focus for the team, and probably it's another reason why we are winning the market at the moment.
Yeah, and on the retention side, how are you maintaining, creating those efficiencies? Is it mainly promotion based? Is it through advertising, content integrate? What's been your best channel?
Look, I've been working on retention marketing for a long time, and I really believe that having the best app in the market, so the best product, really make more than 50% of my job, of our job. So first off, I think we have the best app, the best product in the market, and this is probably able to retain the majority of our biggest player. On top of this, we try to use existing models for retaining our top players. So we try to segment our customer base when it comes to lifetime value and sports preferences, and we really focus on that 20% of the customer base that is generating more than 80% of the revenue for the business. So this makes our life a little bit easier because we need to focus on best customers by providing them the best experience possible. So I think it's a combination of using the right technology. I think we're a pretty cool marketing technology stack, using real-time marketing, and I think we have a team of analytics that is pretty brilliant and it's helping us with a lot of insights.
And what are you seeing from a channel mix that is working on track? From a media perspective of utilizing such a massive database, first-party data, whatever with privacy right now, what are you seeing work and drive your media?
Yeah, I being a media person at heart, I love and hate this question. Only because, to me, it's the average consumer doesn't differentiate between I saw something on TV versus paid social versus on YouTube. It's like an impression's an impression. The context around in which they're consuming your advertising might be a little bit different, which is how we try to measure the impact of different placements. But you'll see we're in the category as a whole, we're very heavy on TV, especially within live sports, leading up to the games, even right after games. If you're in local markets where sports betting is legal, you're probably getting inundated with ads from the category. So there is definitely a very heavy investment in TV. One thing that's also really important is we have a partnership with Pat McAfee, as probably everybody knows, but the influencer space and talent and people talking about the product, and even just talking about sports in general is heavily influences sports betting behavior. So you may have seen some of the deal that we did with Pat McAfee and how expensive it was. But there's a reason for that because it's actually shaping the betting behaviors of the market. And that's, if I had to point to one particular channel, I think the influencer space is probably driving most of our business and the most interesting, is the most opportunity.
Taking this not in a totally different direction, but responsible gaming, is a big thing, right? It's something you guys have to focus on. I'm sure with your media, making sure you're advertising a certain segment, and then how do you, protect against people who get addicted or it becomes a problem? Is there ways to do that?
Yeah, well, there's definitely ways to do it, and it's something that we talk about just about every single day. One thing that we really want to do as a company is be additive to the sports experience. Most people would say that if they're betting on a game, that they actually get more enjoyment out of watching the game. So it's doing wonders not only for people, but for the leagues, the NFL, the NBA, like, it's actually a really good thing for them because it's getting all their customer fan bases more engaged. But with that comes a huge responsibility to make sure that we have the right controls in place to identify when somebody has gotten out of control, put limits on how much they bet. Mario, let you talk to about the specific controls that we have in place. But it's something that we literally talk about just about every single day, of how to make sure we're doing the right things and we're compliant. Obviously, heavily regulated business. All the new states that have passed it are very, very interested in the stance that we're taking in terms of responsible gaming and making sure we have the right controls in place. So it's table stakes for us in a way that we make sure that this business continues for a very long time in the future, and it's actually an additive to sports and not a detractor.
Brian said all the right things. It's a table stakes for us. And, we really believe that if we want to win and be the best app and the best brand, we really need to win also when it comes to responsible gaming. Brian mentioned a number of tools that we have in place for our customers. So our customer can actually take a break and say, okay, I need a break for the next month or whatever. So I don't want to receive any communication. I don't want to waste the bet. So we have in place all these tools that are built into our product in order to prevent these type of things. But we are also trying to elevate this to something even more important. We have a lot of data, which is really the power of our company. And we are building AI and models, prevention models that will flag customers that actually are having issues or problems with our product. So we can proactively reach out to those customers and say, okay, you actually need a break. We're going to put you on a break for the next period of time, which I think is pretty smart. And also, I think coming from Europe, where sports betting has been, online sports betting has been there for a long time, we know how big of a risk this can be for FanDuel. So we really want to be proactive. We really want to work with the leagues, with our competitors, and really start with something that can really benefit the entire industry. So yeah, a lot of work still to do because it's still early phases for the sports betting industry here in the US. But I think we have in mind really all the right things to do.
I know everyone in here is responsible. Actually, I do find enjoyment. I do find enjoyment in putting. I put $150 in the account, and I lose it every year. So now I put $5 in the game. I'm like, yes. You're like, how much? Like $5. But it's funny. And so I live in Texas, so I don't think it's legal. So but if it were legal, what I was going to ask you guys, it's promotion week. I'm sure you got leading up to the Super Bowl. Really good time to attract customers. Maybe some of the audience. Do you guys have any really special offers going right now that we could take advantage of, or what's your best promotion you think right now that we can get free money?
Our big headline offer for the Super Bowl is we're offering 56 to 1 odds on any team to win the Super Bowl. So if that's not a good enough reason to come in, so you save free money. But the Super Bowl is our biggest activation time of the year. We have more customers than Super Bowl during any other period. But what's really interesting is you bring in a lot of kind of what we call sideline spectators, people that may not be typical daily gamblers, but want to put a little bit of money on the game. So it's a great opportunity to introduce new people to sports betting, and then figure out a way. It's Mario's job of how to get them involved in all of our other products, but also continue to play on the platform. So it's a huge day for us, and brings in an audience that we typically wouldn't capture otherwise.
That's great. Yeah, and speaking of that, after Super Bowl, how do you get people engaged? Because you got NBA, it's March Madness. Is that
I mean, look, sports doesn't stop. March Madness comes right on the heels of this. We're already preparing for that. We're already starting conversations for what the next NFL season is going to look like. So it is it's nonstop. There's a little bit of a lull probably over the summer, but we'll have March Madness. NBA continues. hopefully the MLB doesn't strike, and that'll continue as well. But yeah, I mean, this is a crazy business. It doesn't seem to ever stop. It's always on.
Gotcha. And then, Brian, I guess on that, you've had a lot of experience in your intro, Hulu and others. What have you gained from there that's really helped you with FanDuel?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, I had the benefit of working for one of the fastest growing companies, I think, in the country over the last 3 years in Hulu. It was an incredible experience. We had a ton of scale, could do rapid testing. But at the end of the day, it was all about customer acquisition, new customer growth, and retaining existing customers, right? All we cared about was retaining people that came in, continually getting them to engage in much more content, and then acquiring as many new people as we possibly could. It's literally the same formula here at FanDuel. We're trying to acquire as many people as we possibly can, keep them on the platform, keep them playing. So all the same things that we did from a media, customer lifecycle marketing perspective, strategic growth perspective, there's a lot of it that's rip and replace, which really helped me kind of hit the ground running when I walked in the door at FanDuel. The biggest difference, I think, is just streaming. TV is a very, although streaming itself is a bit immature, but TV content consumption is a very mature business, whereas FanDuel and sports betting is 3 years old when it comes to the sports betting piece of it, only 6 years old when it comes to fantasy. So not a ton of historical data, very different regulations, very different behavior in states. We're only in 15 states right now for sports betting. So not quite the scale that we had at Hulu, but really optimizing and solving for the same things.
That's great. All right, I'm always fascinated, meeting people that have seen other countries, came from there, and obviously you were with FanDuel and the brand for a long time. What's been your biggest difference from, focused on Europe or the European markets versus US?
Yeah, another great question. I think probably the biggest challenge we have in Europe when it comes to marketing and media investments is that the market is highly regulated. So it's almost impossible to find a solution, an offer, a tagline that would work for all the countries in Europe. And that's the reason why we need to work on so many different solutions by regions and countries. Another barrier is also the language. Of course, people speak Italian and then there are Spanish, there's French, the Greek community. So you need to find and create different versions of your campaign. So I think there are a lot of restrictions, especially when it comes to privacy, which you will probably keep into the States at some point in the future. Those marketing technology platforms are really working on that. On the other side, I think in the US, you really have a big deal because you have a addressable audience that is way deeper. You can use the same creative at a national level. So the fragmentation of the market in Europe is probably a cons. And here you can really see the power of the media creatives and the investment, hitting the market when it comes to this tentpole moment where a lot of it flexible.
And then on a retention side, getting people to retain in Europe, obviously they're not big NFL. What's the strategy over there?
No, I think that, of course, customers are completely different. Could be that it's still early phases for the US market, but the Americans are betting way more than Europeans. Kind of in line with the Australians, because the Australians also have a big reputation when it comes to betting. Of course, there is the bet mix, which is completely different. I think FanDuel has also introduced into the sports betting market a new product that is called same game parlay. So you can really parlay into the same bet, props bet. So you can say, okay, this bet is gonna do a touchdown plus this other thing is gonna score X yards. So you can combine everything in the same bet around the same game, which is something new that we brought and introduced into this market, and really helped us a lot in helping customers to build their story about the game. Because you probably know, okay, Rams are gonna win, and this player is gonna do this player is gonna do that, and you can make your bets based on your feeling and your gut. which is basically what's betting players want.
Yeah, no, that's great. Speaking of bets, I'm sure people love here. Do you guys have any inside track on who's going to win based on betting or consumption?
I have actually not, of course. I think we are betting on. We prefer the Rams because a lot of people are betting on the underdog. So I think for us, the Rams winning is probably a good result. So go Rams. One more reason to say go Rams. And then yeah, I think look, we know that we want to make our customer happy. We are here for the long run. So for us, it's important to give a positive experience to customers. If they're going to win big on Sunday, we're going to celebrate with them because we want to be the brand they want to bet with, for a long time.
Yeah, if we had an inside track, I would be sitting here right now. We all know that somewhere. But Mario's right. Like we prefer that the favorite's going to win. There's usually a lot of money on the underdog. So come Monday morning, we could be in a really, really bad spot or a really, really good spot. It'll be an interesting day for us. It's definitely the most wagered day of the entire year. Which puts a lot of exposure and a lot of risk on the organization. Just to be quite honest, if there's a couple of things that hit, we could be in a really bad spot. That's the business that we're in, and yeah, that's what it is. We try to do our best.
And I heard that the Simpsons predicted 34-31 for the Rams in one of the episodes. So for some reason,
really?
We have seen a lot of customers betting on 34-31 for the Rams.
So that comes true. That is there's gonna be a lot of conspiracy theory on that. I guess they're right for the future. No, thank you guys so much. I think we have a few minutes left, so I would love to open up for questions.
You said something that kind of, I just literally got off the phone with my son and I'm in the measurement business. And I was wondering if you've ever done any surveys about how much betting on a game enhances watching the game, the experience with it, with the person who's usually what you have as well as the game. And if there's any like, background.
Yeah, so we haven't done any of our own internal surveys to understand that. Nielsen did a big survey in 2021 that really helped understand, and it was all kind of self-reported, obviously surveys where people say that they're more likely to watch a sporting event if they have money on the game, and that it makes the event itself much more exciting. There's a number of different. There's another one that came out of a company called Protege, I believe, that did in 2019. So there's a ton of data that's showing this is true. We're also seeing that, this football season, viewership, wagering on this NFL playoffs, was the highest ever, and probably the most exciting football I've ever seen. I think ratings are showing the effect of two of them combined. So we don't have a ton of our own internal insights on it, but there's been a lot of research that shows it's elevating the game.
I'm a little bit obsessed about data, so I can share this with you. Exactly what you're saying.
I work with Comscore, so we have a lot of data.
Yeah, also this AGA, so the American Gaming Association, on Saturday, 31.4 million American adults will place a bet on the Super Bowl. They project $7.6 billion in annual, and this 31.4 million represent 18% of the Super Bowl viewers. So 1 out of 5 of the viewers will also place a bet.
Never pushed out data. I mean, push out questions on a survey.
We could, but we haven't done it.
So I have a question. When you guys enter a market, like so Texas, for example, how do you select which teams you're going to partner with? So it's not just one thing you have to lead, obviously, but then in a market like Texas, you've got multiple options across pretty much everything. So how do you guys determine where is the best place for you to be?
I mean, in Texas, there's really only one option, right? No, it's very much around. I mean, there's obviously a big financial component of it, of who we think we can get a really good deal with. But one of the most valuable pieces of it is the right to use the names and IP in our advertising and within our product. So that's very important. If it's a very relevant team that we can get to a good financial terms place with, that's very relevant in the market, there's a ton of social media chatter around, all of that's factored into what we believe is the most value. So we have deals right now with the Colts and with the Broncos, with the Jets even, which probably doesn't feel like but no, it's there's a number of different factors that go into it, but it's usually what we believe we can get out of it by using the name and IP.
How do you were talking about customer lifestyle space marketing and re-engagement. How do you guys keep somebody so engaged in something that's so hard to do?
How do you keep people engaged when so many people are terrible at betting?
Yeah.
Like myself.
Yeah, me too.
That's a because
My kids ask me if they're the opposite. They only-
no, look, there is a formula. Actually, there's not a formula. There is a formula where we try to give customer back a percentage of their losses. So we say, okay, if you lose $10, let's try to reinvest $2. I'm saying around the numbers in order to keep you active in the upcoming weeks. So we try to understand your value, so the LTV, lifetime value. So we also try to estimate how long are you going to engage with our product, and this will give us an idea of the level of investment we can put into our retention engine.
Great. Last.
Sorry, I was just going to add on to that. And then the types of bets that people are making are also, not as risky or don't have as much of a financial burden on them if they lose, right? So like same game parlays, for example, you can place a $5 bet with an opportunity to win $500,000. So it's not a big hit every time if they're not winning. And like Mario said, then we're always returning a bit of our earnings back to the customer to make sure they're not feeling the pain of a loss every time.
Elizabeth, one
Last question.
questions. How do you see the role of the athlete market? You see some kind of thoughts, you do this move, is there a sensitivity of using athletes from there? The second question is, what have your experience been working with the copyright holders, creating a second experience where wagering overlays part of the real experience?
So a couple questions there. You bring up second screen experience, which is honestly so interesting to us because this is like one of the only businesses in the world I can think of that you can actually really have a true second screen experience where you're watching something and engaging with it at the same time. So there's a lot of thought that we're putting in behind, which kind of goes to the other part of your question around integrations and integrating live odds into the games, which makes it more enjoyable, but then how do you distill that back down to the phone and have them take action? Copyright, we have deals with CBS and some of the big media rights companies to do integrations. You'll see them across. Caesars has some, DraftKings has some as well with ESPN. But we see that as a big valuable component of kind of raising brand awareness, but also integrating our product into the media. And there's always a lot of speculation of, with sports betting coming in, do we actually become competitive for media rights sometime down the future or down the road? That's which is something we talk about often. So when Thursday Night Football is up for renewal, I know Amazon has a contract now. So it's something that we would be interested in, and then can we integrate sports in even a deeper or sports betting in an even deeper way? We're still a ways out from that. We got a lot to learn, a lot to focus on just in sports betting in general. Something that's very top of mind for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And